But I enjoy the position I'm in. I still get a little resistant because being in this position, I feel that I should know what's going on, even if I'm not there. And we have a daycare at our church, and our daycare director has been given information for so long that sometimes she forgets to pass it on. And plus she's my niece, and so we kind of bump heads there a little bit sometimes, and which we did the other day. But other than that, I'm pursuing everything I can that's within my reach. I have no car right now, so I can't go all around. Plus, I don't drive to Dallas at all.
Smart.
I'm sorry.
Boy,
I did drive to Dallas once, and I took my grandchildren to the fair over there, and I had just bought a new car. And I don't drive at night because my vision is not the best at night. So we were coming home, and these kids from college were just acting stupid, and I almost hit my brand new car. I don't have it a couple of months. So I said, Lord, if you let me get home, I will never drive to Dallas again. And the only time that's happened since then is after I injured my back, I had to quit working in the hospital as a nurse. So I was doing a nurse assessment for Easter seals. And I had gone all the way out to South Lake. And I was on my way back. And I missed my turn. And I ended up in Dallas. I said, okay, Lord, you gotta get me home. But this is no joke. Every time I get on the freeway, I only learned to drive in 1987. And 3 months after learning to drive, I got my driver's license. The guy who gave me my test couldn't believe I'd only been driving 3 months. But I refused to get on the freeway because everybody seemed to be driving so crazy. And I had gone to Dallas with my sister once. She worked at TI for 42 years. And it was on Saturday. And I said, Minnie, how do you do this? I couldn't drive over here. Well, this particular day, I prayed and I said, Lord, help me get home. I had got on the wrong road, ended up in Dallas. But some kind of way, I got on that road and ended up right on 30. I couldn't believe it. I was on 30 and I said, Lord, thank you. I know where I am now. But that's the reason I don't go to Dallas unless I'm riding with somebody else.
Okay, we'll remember that. Remember that. How large is Community of Hope?
We have about 97 people, but we only have about maybe 35 worshiping.
Okay.
But church might start off, when I get there sometime, I get there every Sunday about 8 o'clock, 8:30. And here it is, 5 minutes to 11, it's only maybe 2 or 3 people there. And then I get up there to do my sermon, and I look up and we got about 20, 25 people there. But I don't know why, people just cannot get to church on time. And I don't know if anybody else have that problem. But you know, I'm one of these preachers, you can get them to go to your job by 8 o'clock or 6 o'clock. Why can't you get to church by 11, you know?
It's a cultural thing, I'm sorry. In the Bronx, there was white time, which was usually a minute before. There was black time, which was usually 15 to 20 minutes, and then there was Hispanic time, which was 45 minutes later. So you just watch them come through the door. And we always would that's just the way it was, and we just accepted it.
I never heard the term of CFT. What is CFT? First time I heard it was Pastor Allen. And he used to have the same problem. He said, well, CFT. And I said, what is CFT? Go folks down.
I served Augustana Wheeler in Houston for my internship, and that the black folks would even call it that. You know, I mean, we all just laughed. It's CFT. Okay. Anyway, don't know why. I love it. Thank you.
So, are you Saul?
I'm Saul.
You're Saul.
Oh yes,
Okay.
Bishop did.
Yeah.
After we had Pastor Yvonne Keebler
Mm-hmm.
serving our congregation and King of Glory. She would preach at King of Glory, and then she'd come to our congregation. They were 9 and we were 11, so they gave her a little leeway. finally she decided that she's just, she couldn't keep it up. So then Bishop said, Pastor Jane over and asked me, would I
Mhm.
take over? Well, I was already doing it. She was doing 2 Sundays at our church, and I was doing 2 Sundays anyway. But it's a different thing when you put in the position of being the leader than just somebody who's doing a sermon twice a month. It's totally different.
But that's what we trained you to do in Parish Lay
Yes.
Academy. That was
Yes.
the whole point, was that if we needed you to move into that position because there was no one else, at least you had that much training to be able to do it. And that was the point of it all.
That's true.
Oh,
At our
so-
church, we don't have very many men in our church, but one thing Pastor Keeper used to say all the time is, this is a male-dominated church. And unfortunately it is. We have a lot more women in our church than men. But there are 2. I have had to not look at them when I'm doing my sermon, because you can see on their faces. But we have a couple of people in our church who are very supportive. I've got one lady, Miss Johnson. Her husband, we do the piece, and she said, oh my goodness, you were so good today. You always give me something to keep me going.
Good.
And I try to relate the message to us today, always. But for some reason, I don't know why, Johnny's always been very resistant. But then lately he started calling me his conscience, because something we just don't agree. Then he'll come back and say, Rita's my conscience. I thought about that. It's okay. But we're starting a Sunday school. I have been trying to get a Sunday school going for so long. I have not been able to get a Sunday school going. I got the information, I'm gonna start with the little kids. And I'm trying to get a Bible study going. Everybody say we want to do it, but nobody's coming out to do it. But I'm not giving up.
Nope.
Not giving up.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, my contacts for my congregation. We are in Northwest Dallas, and we're over 60 years old. I can't remember when we started with Hispanic ministry anymore. It's been a long time now. It might have been around 2000. Pastor Erickson is, let's see, I was on the call committee when we called Pastor Blanco. Like I said, it's been a long time. And originally we hired Pastor as our church secretary. And I watched as she went through PLM, and then she became Saul, and she went through team, and we were able to ordain her. I kind of followed in some of her footsteps. I'm not sure I did the whole thing, though. I was trying to discern if I should, I'm interested in doing CPE, but then I was pretty sure it was going to be too intense while I was still working full-time, because there's like 4 schools around Dallas where I could take advantage of that, and I thought it's probably too intense, because work is just getting really crazy. Anyway, so the congregational context. We are mainly Hispanic now. However, we're in this situation where we, the graying Anglos, have to figure out how to give up power and position and get it turned over.
Mhm.
And the buildings are crumbling. We have had offers to buy, sell. We've been through many of those. We're currently in that discussion again. And we, in council, came up with the idea that we would go to the congregation and give a committee power to sell part of the property, and then we would be left with a sustainable part. And it's a negotiation. I don't know how it will turn out. And now again, we have another offer to buy the whole property, but it's a real, I think we're pretty much able to say we don't want to do that, because when we had the congregation meeting about selling part, one of the Hispanic ladies who's been there a long time said, we don't want to sell our home. However, you can't fix the roof, you can't fix the parking lot, you're not paying a pastor a full-time salary, blah, 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 blah. This is probably not new to any of you. Very few of you. But now we've been at the Hispanic ministry so long that youngsters I had in Sunday school are coming back with their babies. Coming back to get married, coming back with their babies. So we've been at it a long time. And we're no longer the only Hispanic ministry in the neighborhood. And that's rather challenging, but the neighborhood has changed over quite a bit. But then we're kind of like on a borderline where there's a great quantity of Hispanic neighbors now, but over here we have the McMansions appearing. And we just sit right in the middle of that, right on the dividing line. I've done a lot of roles. I've been a Sunday school teacher for kids. I'm currently teaching an adult Bible study, which has never been a huge class, but they've been welcoming and enthusiastic. But now they are selling their houses and moving to assisted living. And I used to take it for granted that I would continue to do this for a while. I don't take that for granted anymore.
How large is the congregation, English and Hispanic?
It's hard for me to tell you the number of Hispanic because they
Right.
move and they don't tell you.
Right.
And then they show up again in 3 years. Or they go to work in North Dakota, so they come back for the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Maybe we're a total of 400,
Okay.
maybe. The kids are all Hispanic, but then they speak English.
Mhm.
So it's a challenging thing because the parents want worship in Spanish and the kids are bored to tears. It's a real challenge. But the kids generally will go through their first communion and baptism classes in Spanish. So pastor is bilingual. I have been council president. I had to find my replacement and take over treasurer, is the short version. I'm still the treasurer. I finally have somebody from the Hispanic, a bilingual person who's doing bank deposits, and I hope one day soon not to be the treasurer.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, good luck with that. I wrote a grant and Pastor and I went to the Stephen Leader training. Because the materials aren't in Spanish, I haven't been able to get that launched. However, I did reach out to one of the Presbyterian congregations near us and connected with the ministry there, and that's been great. And I tried to lead a class in prayer with some of the Stephen ministry material, and that gave me a connection to some, I am able to make friends in the Spanish community. And there's some bilingual bridges there. We could use more of it. We really struggle with this communication between the two. What else? I bumped into Ashes to Go last Lent at the train station where I commute to work in Farmers Branch. And I didn't do it, but I didn't forget about it. And so this Lent, we did that. And we did it from 7 to 9, and I led it, and Pastor was not there. And we muddled our way through it, and we had 20 people show up. And I involved the teens. I had the teens come. We made garage sale signs saying what we were doing, and people stopped. And only our congregational secretary showed up, other than the other 2 people. But it was really cold, but it was a really good experience. It was really cold.
Fortunately, Ash Wednesday.
Because we are at high traffic.
Right.
And so probably everybody was Catholic that stopped, but I don't know. We didn't ask them.
Yeah.
And
Cool.
I want to do it again, and I wonder, can we get enough nerve to go down the street to where the day laborers are, which is kind of a dangerous intersection. I don't know. I have to have guys there. That's a whole different thing. We'll see. We'll see.
It's cool. It's very cool.
That is.
I don't know. We're just at we could be at some very fork in the road where we either start to go a direction or we go belly up. And, I had a lot of friends at St. Paul's, and that's one of the reasons I survived as treasurer in my congregation was Kathy was the treasurer at St. Paul, and, we had somebody to vent with, the 2 of us. And, so it's like, well, I'm not afraid. I know if we go that route, it'll be very, very painful. I could see that. I felt some of the pain too, because I live very close to where St. Paul was. But I'm not afraid to say, hey, maybe we ought to close. I've said it at a council meeting, when you can't pay the benefits and you can't pay a full-time salary and you can't, blah, blah, blah. maybe it's time to close.
Okay.
So I may need that kind of support. I don't know. We'll see.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't recommend it. Going through that, I mean. Yeah, so, a little bit of context. The St. Paul's experience at that time was before we had this idea of missional church. We had what was called transformational ministry, which one borrows from the other somewhat, it appears. We didn't have a clear idea of what that was. We tried it, we worked it hard, we really worked it hard, and didn't really have a lot of success at it, clearly. I mean, the end result was not what was intended or what was outlined. I wish we'd have had something like this, but not when you're circling the bowl, right? You cannot wait till you're circling the bowl. You've got to jump into it, ideally while you're healthy. And that's why I really have a lot of optimism around that for Grace, because we are relatively healthy. I don't have a lot of knowledge of the history of Grace, because I've only been a member there for about a year and a half, and tangentially kind of connected for about 3 years, I guess. My youngest son was confirmed there because we couldn't even swing a confirmation class at St. Paul's, and so they welcomed my youngest, and he went to high school with, or junior high, whatever, with a lot of the kids in the class, so that worked out well. But the cool thing that I see about doing this with Grace Lutheran in Carrollton is that, number one, the pastor is fully on board. He's very missionally oriented, at least seems to be from what he says. You know, I think the rubber's fixing to meet the road here. Right? So, but we just went through a building program, and the underlying context was equipping ourselves to become more missional, and so that's been his drive. How that is going to play out, we don't know, and I guess that's very consistent with the teachings in the book. We don't know. We're going to, in transformational ministry, it was you're going to build an airplane while you're flying it. But here it's you're going to build a bridge while you're standing on it, basically. So I get that. I understand that, and that I can embrace that even, right? Because if you sit around waiting, then it's passed you by. And you know, the cool thing is that it is contextual, so it's going to be unique for every congregation in terms of the details of how it gets played out. I'm very excited about that as well.
How large is Faith?
Grace.
Grace, I'm sorry.
We have probably on the books probably 300 baptized confirmed members. We worship probably 100 and average 130 to 160 at 2 services every week.
Okay, all right.
So I'm blessed to be a worship assistant every once in a while, but I have no formal role in the no leadership role in the congregation. My
Okay.
wife and I co-teach a Bible study class on Tuesdays, and that's as deep of waters as we've waded into so far.
And that's a very humble statement. I'm going to say.
Yeah.
I'm going to interrupt. That's a very humble statement. The Bible study that Miles and his wife Bridget teach is probably the best attended Bible study that has ever been held at Grace since I have been a member.
Did not know that.
So yeah,
Hmm.
so
Cool.
that's why I was going to interrupt that.
God is blessing us. Yeah, definitely.
Social ministries, sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm a diabetic and I frequently have to hit the restroom.
Okay, and I was going to try to do that. Okay, why don't we just go ahead. We'll come back to you. Let's take a break. Period. Okay. I was looking at my watch and said 1:30. We need to take a break.
That's one
We look quite
thing
there.
I mean. That's